diplomatic relations. Remember, they've got a new foreign minister. They're trying to normalize ties with India despite the situation on the border. The message to Pakistan, of course, it is worried that Pakistan is getting diplomatically isolated and China can't be seen as the only country that is backing Pakistan. The second message, it's a signal to India to dismiss the notion that China is any kind of sympathizer to Pakistan and sympathizer to terrorist elements. The message to Pakistan is you cannot support terror when it doesn't serve the purpose. Remember, Chinese nationals have been attacked during the course of the last many years. That's a wrap. We'll have more on Makki, but on the other side, a very special episode of The Biggest Exclusive with Ridhima Bhatnagar.
I wish I can be a man, Qinwen Zhang, the Chinese tennis player, said after losing out on a French Open title because of menstrual cramps. Now, these words are enough to depict a woman's pain during periods. However, the menstrual experience itself is very different for each woman. For some women, cramps might not result in discomfort, but for some, it can be an experience of acute stomach cramps, embarrassment, stigma, and even missed opportunities. In a research conducted by the University of London, they described menstruation pain as almost as bad as having a heart attack. Let's go back to 2017. In India, you had a former member of parliament in the Lok Sabha from Arunachal Pradesh who introduced the Menstruation Benefit Bill, a private member's bill to provide women working in public and private sectors with 2 days of paid menstruation leave each month. The bill back then had triggered a massive debate. But things aren't very different in 2023 either. The decision of the Kerala government is seeing sharp reactions. The Kerala government on Monday said it would grant menstrual leave for female students studying at all state universities coming under the Department of Higher Education. Taking a cue from the Cochin University of Science and Technology, in providing this menstrual leave to its students, the Higher Education Minister said that the government has decided to implement the same in all state universities under the purview of the department. But critics feel that this move will make the women miss out on many opportunities, as this will essentially make women to be seen as the weaker gender. Thus, we're asking, as far as the menstrual leave is concerned, is a leave of this sort an incentive or a deterrent? So what are the arguments for and what are the arguments against as far as menstrual leave is concerned? Let's break down all those details so that we can set up what we'll be discussing over the next 30 minutes. Let's first begin with what are people in favor of menstrual leave saying. Leaves are optional and need-based. So essentially they're saying choice is the essential word. For example, if a woman has acute stomach cramps, she has the option to avail this leave. If not, you choose not to avail this particular leave. What are critics saying? That period leave considered discriminatory. Many are saying you already have the option of sick leave. Why do you want to add another aspect to it called period leave or menstrual leave? People who are supporting menstrual leave are saying that periods actually hamper the productivity and efficiency. So if you're an employer and you know that your employee's productivity is going to be hampered in those particular days, won't it actually be better if that employee has the option to take a leave like this? But what are critics saying? They're saying this is against constitutional right to equality. Many are also saying that at a time when women are wanting to break ceilings, wanting to break barriers, this actually will make them take 100 steps back. Let's talk about some other arguments as well. People in favor are saying that women experience pain and emotional agony. As I said when I started the show, if you go back to a survey that was conducted by the University of London, they said that many women's stomach cramps are so acute that it can actually be compared to the pain one goes through when you're suffering from a heart attack. But what are critics saying? The unwillingness to hire women at workplaces. Many are saying this will actually now be used by employers because they will say that should I give menstrual leave to women when I know that their productivity also will be impacted during that time. So women either way will lose out on a lot of opportunities. Let's talk about some other arguments. People supporting the concept of menstrual leave are also saying will improve women's health and well-being because we are saying that a woman is in so much pain and discomfort. Isn't it better for her to take those days off and then come back fresh the next day? Critics are saying this legitimizes the idea that women are the weaker sex or the weaker gender. So as I said, this entire debate in fact is not new. It's not new in India, it's not new globally. But despite all of that, we continue to see a lot of sharp reactions. I just want to give you a context of what women actually go through when they have their periods or when they're going through their menstruation cycle. How painful are menstrual camps? And as I said, we'll go back to that survey of University of London. They've gone on to say that the pain is as bad as someone actually having a heart attack. So many women are saying that why are you putting us in such a painful position? Why not give us that option of actually using this leave? That survey also says existing treatments for period pain are very limited. The choice is not there with women to actually go forward and have some sort of solution. They're also talking about stigma. They're asking how many women are actually going to be comfortable walking up to a male manager and talking about a leave like this. Period-related illness can actually cause infertility as well. So it's not just the period pain, but the disorders that follow through a woman's body as well. Period cramps not considered public health issue, and that seems to be an issue that many women continue to voice about. There's just not enough diagnosis, treatment, research, or just enough data to understand what women are going through. Pain not life-threatening, but it does affect your daily life and your productivity as well. And that's why I'll go back to that question that I pointed out earlier, that if an employer already knows that the employee's productivity is going to be low on these particular days, isn't it actually better for her to have that option of availing a leave like this? I quickly also want to talk to you about the fallout of women suffering from menstrual cramps. 23 million girls drop out annually after their periods begin. And we're not only talking about what happens in rural areas where we do know that many women don't even have the access to sanitary pads, so on and so forth. 80% of women actually suffer from various disorders that is actually a result of menstrual cramps. What we're also now understanding is as many as 25 million people suffer from various other disorders and a pain that acute where they might feel that they're almost passing out. Also quickly, there's a Dutch study that also points out to this entire aspect of productivity, of how women productivity actually falls in these days, and it's below par on days of their period cycle. Thus, the larger question that we're asking this evening is, what do you feel about menstrual leave? Should women actually have the choice? Or do you think that this will actually be a deterrent as far as women are concerned? We're also opening our call-in lines and numbers flashing on your screens. We'd love to hear your views. We'd love to hear from women especially to understand, what do you feel? Do you feel that menstrual leave is something that should be made available? Or do you think this would be a deterrent? 0120-434-1895 is the number. Let me also now bring in our guest to take this conversation forward. We have Ms. Karuna Nandi, Senior Advocate. I also have Gursakhi Logani, Social Media Influencer. We also have Anil Murthy, Co-founder, Save India Family Foundation. And we also have Dr. Nidhi Jha, a gynecologist. Good to have all of you on the broadcast with us. Ms. Karuna Nandi, I'd like to begin the conversation with you. I'd like to begin with what critics are saying. Arguments as far as people who are against the idea of menstrual leave or period leave, they're saying it's against the constitutional right to equality. So let's begin from there. Is that a fair argument to make?
The default worker, Ridhima, is male, right? Is male, able-bodied, actually upper caste and Hindu as well. So that is the default worker, right? Now, in such a case, when we are speaking about equality can we only have the default male worker in mind, or are we also going to address other workers and other students in their diversity? So what critics are saying that there's a formal equality that should be applied, which is that since men don't need the menstrual leave, that nobody else should get the menstrual leave, right? And as you correctly pointed out, there are women who go through extreme pain during their periods. Are they going to then have to take out time out of their sick leave? What if they get the same sickness as the other workers and then don't have any leave left? Then what? Do they get fired? I mean, because menstrual leave ends up being a fair bit, right? If it's 1 day a month, for example, right? Secondly, I think it's really like maternity leave. If you don't need it, don't take it. And if you don't need it, the high likelihood is that you won't take it. And don't deny others pain because you're such a pain-free hero. I find a lot of women who don't have the pain, and there's a fair number of us, right, failing to understand that that standing up for women means standing up for women who aren't as proximate to the default male worker as us, And I think it's fundamental to ensure that women can work. Our labor workforce participation rate pre-COVID was 11%. It had dropped from 35%, 11% in Delhi, 25% nationally. It had dropped from 35% in the 90s. It had dropped. We have a problem of excluding women from work. And this is really a step in the right direction.
Okay.
There are various laws in other countries. Zambia, for example, gives 1 day a month.
True.
So there are other countries that give, say, 3 days a year. That seems a bit limited to me. There are in Japan, I think that it says there's a law that says, I've only read the English account of it, I don't speak Japanese, that says that don't employ the woman when she is on her period, which seems to mean that they'll cut the pay. I think South Korea says that you can compensate. You can give, if you're not taking the leave, you can be paid for the day.
Yeah.
So there are various ways in which policies can be designed, but I think thought must be given to this. And just as maternity leave has not broken the back of the economy, I think menstrual leave is something that is important, and the details need to be worked out.
Sure.
But the principle is fundamental.
Sure. Globally, there are many countries, as you rightly pointed out, Ms. Nandi, from Spain to Zambia to China to Japan, even United Kingdom, some parts. Well, the fine print differs from each country to country. So many in India are saying that why don't we just become okay with the idea, and then each employer or organization can work out the fine print. And then, of course, at the end of the day, women have the choice. If they want to go forward with it, that's their choice. If they don't want to avail it, that's also their choice. Before I bring in our other guests, we already have a caller, Abhigyan, now joining us. Go ahead. What do you feel?
Hi, I'm calling from Kolkata, and I'm basically talking as an employer for a startup. And what I feel is, if I have to choose between two candidates who are exactly equal, a male and a female, this law could be detrimental for the female candidate. For a startup, our resources are always very nominal, so we have to look at the cost aspects of things as well. So whenever this law is passed, this will be actually detrimental for the female worker, because they have to be subsequently better than the male candidate to be get selected, because there is a cost aspect that most startups or employers would face.
Okay. So essentially what you're saying, that there's an economic cost, and then possibly many employers would want to go forward with a male candidate vis-a-vis a woman candidate. Abhigyan, we appreciate you calling us here on CNN News 18. Gursaki, this is where I want to bring you in. You're a woman, you're an entrepreneur, you have a startup as well. What do you feel with the point that our caller is making? And essentially, this is exactly the point that a lot of critics who are against this period leave or menstrual leave are also making. One, they're saying that when women talk about ambitions, breaking the glass ceilings, this will make them go back 100 steps. They're also saying employers will start thinking differently, Because as the caller also rightly pointed out, as an employer, when you're working with a limited revenue or with a limited, money to spend for your business, you'll make that choice very easily, that why do I want somebody who won't be available on certain days of the month? I'd rather go forward with a male candidate. Do you think that could become a big problem going forward if a policy like this is implemented in the larger workforce?
Sure, there are many debates about this, and I feel like I want to take a step back and first talk about, one can argue that, this could be specifically for a startup, it could be not a very economical decision to make, or, it could, get again, but I want to really just take a step back and be like, okay, this is actually promoting the idea of starting more discourse and conversation around sexual health, around menstruation, around reproductive health, which is what has been stigmatized for as long as we know, right? So for me, this, the menstruation leaves coming into place, or such a law coming into place, of course, the fine prints and, the integrities can be, figured out. But for me, this, the whole idea is to bring in a culture in whether it's a startup or a bigger organization to, get rid of the taboo about walking up to, your manager and telling them that, hey, I am feeling a certain sort of period pain, or talking more healthily about it or more openly about it. So for me, for for starters, it's more about anything else. And now, being an entrepreneur, most of the workforce that I have is women, and we allow like 3 period leaves every month, and I feel like that also gives an opportunity for women to be empowered to take their own decisions.
Sure.
See, I don't want somebody to come to work and not be productive. That's actually counterproductive, right? So especially in this post-COVID era, where the culture of hybrid working or work from home is being promoted, and we're kind of shifting to that side of the ways of working. I feel like a leave for a menstruation should definitely be a choice. It should be a choice. If you face the kind of period every month in which you have excruciating pain, debilitating pain, then you should have a choice to rest it out and to come back rejuvenated the next day. And
I agree with the point that you're making, and this is why I said that I think the essential word we all need to focus on is choice. That for some women, it might be impossible for them to even leave their bed. So for those women, that option should be there. And Anil Murthy, this is where I want to bring you in the conversation. Taking on from the point that Gursaki was also making as far as this entire taboo and stigma around menstruation in general in India, even something like menstrual hygiene actually continues to be, one of the most neglected issues as far as what women in this country face. Let's just talk some numbers. I mean, you have about 355 million women in this country that are of menstrual age, and they continue to face discomfort and challenges month after month. So the larger question then is, if it's such a larger number that we're talking about, shouldn't they also have a choice? Anil, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm. Yeah, are you able to hear me?
Can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello. Yes. See, we have to understand this problem, why this problem is in their first place, and how European countries are handling this particular issue. So they have a lot of women in the workplace. See, we have to understand one thing, that in Europe and many.
Okay. We seem to be losing that connection with Anil. We'll just try and re-establish that connection with him. But Dr. Nidhi Jha, let me bring you in the conversation in the meantime. Why don't you give our viewers a perspective of what a woman actually goes through, somebody who actually does have acute cramps? What are the kind of disorders that she goes through? What is the kind of pain? Do we understand the severity of the pain?
See, being a gynecologist, I am a person who faces patients, who faces girls of the age group, reproductive age group, day in, day out. So some kind of pain, some amount of pain is there for everyone. There are very few females who does not have any pain. So first of all, I would like to say why this pain happens. This pain happens because the uterus wants to contract and expel the endometrium, the lining of the uterus, once in a month if the patient does not conceive or does not get pregnant. In this process, to undergo this process, there are some enzymes, prostaglandins released, which causes contraction of the uterus, and it causes pain, which is also known as dysmenorrhea. So dysmenorrhea is how common. The period pain is how common. Period pain is actually very common.
Sure.
It can happen in normal in the normal physiology as well. There are certain conditions. There are certain conditions where the pain is much increased, like endometriosis, like PCOD, like adenomyosis. There are many cases where the pain is much increased in nature. So I would say that it is a welcome step, and at least people will inquire, people will talk about menstrual pain, menstruation.
And I think, why should we restrict ourselves just talking about menstrual pain? We should also talk about menstrual hygiene, the access to, sanitary pads, so on and so forth, for, half the country as well. But Ms. Nandi, I want to come back to you, and I want to come back to you as far as another criticism to this entire debate. While, many are saying that it's okay as far as this move in universities is concerned, but when it moves in the workforce, it can actually be a deterrent for women, because many are saying that you already have the concept of a sick leave. So why do you need to add another element as period leave? If you're unwell, is that what you're saying, and you're telling your employer, then you already have that option. Why do you need an added element? And the other and the larger criticism is that this will lead to women missing out on opportunities. Many people recounting their own experiences, saying that, when I got XYZ award, or when I did my best show, so on and so forth, I was actually on my periods. But if I had decided to step back and stay at home, I possibly would have missed those opportunities. Do you think that's a fair argument that is being made?
See, there are three things.
Can I answer this question?
The first is that if you said that women should get, include their maternity leave with their sick leave, because, before maternity leave existed, sick leave existed, right? Then that doesn't sound right, does it? Because only women become mothers, right? In the same way, women get the flu, women get heart disease, women get cancer, women get typhoid, and women get periods every month, right? So in addition, some women get endometriosis, some women have PCOD, etc. And so just that in itself makes it unfair to say restrict the period leave to sick leave. The second thing is that I think we really, really need an equality law. We can't have people saying that I am going to discriminate against women because they are going to take period leave, or because they are going to take maternity leave, right? But however, one understands the difficulties of small shops or startups, etc. So in such cases, perhaps, when the business is small, there could be some kind of government support worked out for MSMEs, medium and small, basically small and micro enterprises. And I think the third thing is that, look, if a woman is getting that award and is getting that huge opportunity, there are women who are going to power through. There are women and men who power through cancer and heart disease and whatever, and and different kinds of illness.
No, I agree with the point that you're making. Nobody is, discussing the fact that is it an option to work when you're having your period cycle? Of course, that's an option. And most of us, come to work, nobody takes leave. But the larger debate is that if you're in so much pain, should that option in fact be given? Are we painting all women with the same brush? Because as I said, menstruation itself as a concept is not very black and white, and the pain experienced by each woman was also very different. I just want to bring in another caller. Mrinalini is also now calling us. Mrinalini, go ahead. What do you feel? Do you think period leave should be an option given to women?
I really think so, because I don't think it's a discrimination, or I don't think women are weak. It's a natural cause. People are, women have this issue, and then we call it a discrimination. If men also have the same problem and we don't give leave to men and we only give to women, then we call it a discrimination. Otherwise, it is not a discrimination at all. And it is left to the women. For example, if the woman is not feeling up to the mark of coming to office or going to school, I think we should give leave to the woman. It's up to the woman whether to participate or not. And also in terms of schools and all that, especially in India, many schools don't have really good bathrooms, where they could go and change the pad or something like that. So it is very difficult for young girls, and especially in a co-education situation. Sure. It's very difficult. So if they want to take off, why not?
Okay.
They take off. If they are willing to come, they should come. It's nothing. There's no weakness in this. There is no discrimination in this.
No discrimination. So you're also essentially going back to that word of choice. Anil, I want to bring you in, and I actually want to go back to a very famous dialogue of a sitcom Friends, where Rachel Green, one of the characters, said, "No uterus, no opinion." So shouldn't it be then the final choice of women themselves? As we've been saying, when we know that you're in such excruciating pain, your productivity will also be impacted. Give that choice to women. If they want to take it, great. If they don't, then they continue coming to work. What is the problem?
Yes. Yeah, well, I want to say something simple. It is not a man versus woman thing. It's not even an equality topic. Actually, it is. We need to look at the elephant in the room. How European countries are dealing with their workplaces, their colleges, right? They have.
Okay, we seem to be
55, 60 hours per week also. So let me put it very clearly. We need to
Okay, we seem to be losing Anil's connection once again. We'll try and reestablish that, or try and take him at least on the phone line. But Gursaki, going back to the larger conversation, that why is it okay just for universities and not okay for the workplace? Do you think we should now move beyond the conversation of whether this is good as far as the intent and the idea is concerned, and move towards working out the fine print as to how employers can actually implement this? How can HR, human resources and their management across the country can have better policies that this debate shouldn't even be had? Because as I said, there was a private bill that was brought in 2017. We had the same debate whether this is good as far as the idea of this leave itself is concerned or not. And even in 2023, we seem to be making the same arguments. So shouldn't we now move beyond and work as far as the fine print of how the policy like this could be implemented?
I mean, most definitely. And as you very rightly said, no uterus, no opinion, right? So first of all, this should not, be a man-woman issue, And I also want to just add one point here is that even men PMS, even men, just because they are not bleeding, do face some sort of hormonal changes every month. So that also should eventually be taken into consideration, and we should be having a conversation about that. But talking about that right now is like, trying to chase the moon. But yeah, coming back to your point, I feel definitely we should empower women to make their own choice, right? Equating a menstrual leave to a medical leave is very short-sighted. It should not be even a debate. Should every person or every woman who's menstruating or who's bleeding goes through a different experience? On some months, my pain is debilitating, it's out of control. I can't even get out of bed. And another month, it won't even feel like a pause. It'll be a cakewalk, So should I choose to work on the days when I'm feeling that excruciating?
So essentially, I think the larger sentiment here in the room is that it should be all about choice. It could differ from day to day. It could differ from month to month, and it could differ from woman to woman as well. I want to give the final 30 seconds to a last caller, Captain Jagtap from Rohtak calling us. Go ahead, Captain. What do you feel?
Good evening, Ridhima and the other panelists. You see, in this competitive world, feminism will be beaten 100 years back. Secondly, it is a self-goal. You lose many opportunities in the jobs.
Okay.
And it is as far as this
So
Kerala
you're
government
saying
is
this move will actually be counterproductive for women because they will miss out on opportunities. As I said, every time we speak about period leave, it continues to garner a lot of sharp reactions. Unfortunately, I will have to leave that conversation there. I'd like to thank all the callers and all our guests as well. With that, it's a wrap from my side, but news continues here on CNN News 18.
Staying with us, it's been a week since Bihar Education Minister, after addressing a university program, made remarks against Hindu text Ramcharitmanas, which is Tulsidasa's rendition of Ramayana. Bihar Minister Chandrasekhar, remember, had admonished Ramcharitmanas, calling it divisive and hateful to backward classes. While Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar of the JDU has objected to his comment after much pressure, all he has done is express his inability to do anything else, because the minister concerned comes from alliance partner RJD under their quota. There is no action by the Chief Minister. So what does the RJD say on this issue? Its leader Tejashwi